Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
And welcome to the back of the range. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 157. My guest on this episode is Parker Coody, part of that young nucleus on the Texas Longhorns golf team that includes his twin brother Pierceson, Travis Vick, Will Thomson, and Cole Hammer. I know it must feel like a lifetime ago, but the final tournament of the collegiate season, before it was interrupted by the coronavirus pandemic, was the Southern Highlands Collegiate in Las Vegas. USC won the team title, but Parker Coody came from 7 shots back, caught Yuxin Lin on the 18th hole to force a playoff, which he ultimately won. What does he get for winning such a prestigious collegiate event? An exemption into the PGA Tour's Shriners Hospitals for Children Open at TPC Summerlin. So he definitely has that to look forward to, along with the restart of collegiate golf. Now, this episode was recorded before the U.S. Amateur. We chatted about his win at Southern Highlands and his experience playing at the University of Texas. Remember, they were the runners-up to Stanford at the National Championship. Before we get to this episode, remember, please keep sharing the back of the range with someone that you think would enjoy listening to these episodes. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and every episode is available at thebackoftherange.com. I have some merch coming in soon, so I'll make sure that everyone knows when it is available and how to purchase it. Lots of great guests coming up in the next couple weeks. We have the U.S. Open and the Masters on the way, so don't worry. I've got you covered with some unique episodes that I'm sure all of you will enjoy, and perhaps some surprises along the way. So, quick intro this week. Let's get right to the episode. Parker, welcome to the back of the range. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, I mean, friend of the podcast, you know, when I put clips of different episodes up on Instagram, there's always a Parker Coody viewed this or Pierceson Coody viewed this. So I feel that it's catching on at Austin, but I'm gonna really put you in a tough spot right off the bat. So another person that follows this podcast is Debbie Coody, your mother. Now we can go in two directions here. You can go the one direction where you say how she's been so instrumental in your success in golf, or you can, since we're kind of embarrassing her on this episode and you know she's listening to this at some point, you can give a mom story of how, you know, maybe she kind of embarrassed you on the golf course at some point in your career. So you could take this in any direction you want to go.
We'll go with she's been instrumental. We'll be nice.
Wow, look at that.
She has a social media presence that the Texas team likes to make fun of, but she has been very instrumental to both Pierceson and I, and couldn't thank her enough. I know she loves keeping up with, all of our content as far as our play and stuff, but I know she likes listening to Back Range podcast and everything going on. So it's funny that you see that.
So she is she's the team mom, you'd say.
Very, yes,
awesome.
No.
That's awesome. So tell me, we're recording on July 22nd. I'm kind of letting everyone know when we record because obviously with COVID, a lot of things change and things go crazy. So let's talk a little bit about your summer. I mean, you're no stranger to competitive golf. A lot of success in Texas as a junior. You're now in your sophomore season just cut short at the University of Texas along with your brothers. But tell me a little bit about, I guess, what your summer's been like, what things have been like leading up to the summer so you can stay sharp with some pretty important golf tournaments coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so, obviously our season got cut short, and when quarantine first started, I didn't really do anything for a month. I grinded on school, but golf wasn't priority because, all tournaments had been canceled, and we were getting emails saying, this tournament may happen, this tournament may not happen. Oh, and then all of a sudden tournaments actually started getting canceled, so leading up to Southern Ann was my first tournament, and it was at my home course, Merrido.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was different for sure. I played the Merrido the Samaritan Fund, which those went well, but it felt like an actual tournament, but it wasn't amateur golf, which obviously that's what I'm playing right now. So it was just, I was just talking to somebody before I got on this, and I was telling them first first tee shot of the Southern, I was actually like nervous again. Like, okay, good. We're finally going again. We're here. And then, I mean, obviously I didn't play the way I wanted to, but it was still such a good feeling to be able to compete again. I mean, we 4 months since Southern Highlands to that point. So,
and it's funny you talk about being nervous. For the average player, the average guy that or woman that plays at their club or public, muni golf or whatever it is, they are more accustomed to the casual round, 2 off the first, oh, pick it up, that's good, it's 3 feet, or just drop another ball, and they're used to that. Where if you put anything maybe nerve-wracking or any pressure situation, they really don't want that. I'm guessing you and a lot of your contemporaries are completely opposite. If you're playing casual golf, at some point you're like, look, this just isn't fun. I need the juice. I need something.
Right. No, you're exactly right. I mean, I know Pierceson and I, we would get bored playing just whatever golf. Like if we went and played, had a quote unquote like fun round of golf with me, my dad, and Pierceson, it was like, don't get me wrong, it was fun, like good family time, but it's just not the same. I mean, we're lucky we play at Merido where there's a ton of players and everyone's extremely competitive, and we're able to get some good games where we can put pressure on each other, but there's just nothing that can compete in a tournament and being able to have a chance to like actually win something that you've been thinking about for so long.
Right.
It's just, and you want it so bad. And I think that's just what the part that makes you nervous.
Now, you mentioned you weren't exactly ready to go, or you didn't play your best at the Southern at Merido. Typically, what's your prep time to get ready for an elite amateur tournament? And I know it's kind of odd you had all that time to do it when there's nothing going on, but still you can't get out, you can't play the kind of rounds you need to play. When you're trying to get prepped for I know you're playing in the Western Amateur coming up, and you're playing in the U.S. Amateur. What's a typical time that you need to ramp up and get ready so that you're peaking?
From past experience, I would say probably about 2 or 3 weeks. But I mean, you're probably playing tournament before that,
right?
Where last year, obviously, this year's totally different in your preparation, the way things are going. But given like last year, come off NCAAs, you got that 2-week period. I went and played Monroe, kind of rusty, and then played well at Northeast, and I was kind of just playing. I wasn't winning last summer, but I was definitely like just playing consistent golf.
Right.
Versus, I didn't have that turn. I mean, that tournament prep is huge. I mean, anyone can sit on the putting green, hit balls forever, do whatever.
Right.
And obviously, guys went to Southern Am and they were ready to go. And McClure Meisner, he won. Like, I mean, shot 6 on the final round, ready to go. So I think it's just different for everybody. I mean, personally, if I were to say I would like a tournament or 2 under my belt before I play a big amateur event, which college does that. College keeps you playing all year, which really is nice. Keeps that, don't get too rusty, and kind of just keep going.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about, since you're bringing up college, I mean, I've spoken with other collegiate players. Actually just had Coach Michael Beard from Pepperdine on the podcast recently, and he said something really interesting. He said the competition in the qualifiers to make the starting 5 is so intense that when that final 5 do get onto the tournament site, it's almost like it's such a different, relaxing experience where they know they've put the work in and they can go play, and it seems like it's less pressure. I mean, I don't want to misquote or put words in his mouth, but it sounded to me like he was talking about 5 guys that are like on a golf trip. And
no, he's totally right. I mean, qualifying's intense, especially. I mean, the way Coach Fields does his qualifying, if you top 10, you're in the next week, or if you win, you get 3 weeks. But you go have one off week, you go home and say 2 guys are, and say Pierceson and Cole are in the tournament. I mean, last year, my freshman year, this happened a decent amount. Say Pierceson and Cole were in the tournament, and I would come back to Austin, and I was like, all right, here we go. Like, gotta get ready again this week. We're qualifying because I don't know if I'm teeing it up again next week.
Right.
So, I mean, but then exactly like you said, like you get to the tournament and we get to play such nice courses and nice places. And you get to the tournament, you're relaxed and you're like, oh, this is nice. Like you can just play golf and what happens happens.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with Coach Beard.
Well, and you guys just have some absolutely heavy. I mean, you just got heavy hitters on your team where, you got Cole Hammer and you and your brother and Travis Vick and it seems like you just have you have a young team as well. I know that I know Will Thompson's in several of your starting rotations. How do you balance being on a team and you're obviously all rooting for each other, but you don't want to be that sixth guy that's in study hall or at, I mean, hate to say it, but you don't want to be at a class. We'll edit we'll edit this out to protect you, Parker, but you don't want to be in class when, Cole and your brother are in Hawaii or in Vegas.
Right. No, I missed 2 tournaments my first semester freshman year, and I missed the one at Isleworth and the one at Colonial being close to home, my granddad being able to go out there. I mean, those 2 ate at me, and Coach Fields each time came back and asked me how it felt.
Oh,
and I'd tell him every time, like, Coach, it's the worst feeling. He's like, I know. And he'd tell me, don't do it again. And so I did it again after Colonial for Isleworth, which, I mean, was fine. Like, I mean, it's worked out, but I don't plan on doing it again. It's the worst feeling.
Now, I'm sure that when your teammates are at the tournament and you're back home, they're not texting you pictures of golf courses or texting you where they're staying or showing you, and they're not doing that at all to rub it in, right?
Well, I have a really loving brother, so he is doing that.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Man, terrible.
I know, it's bad.
Well, I'd love to say hopefully you can get them back, but you don't want that. That's not going to help the team. So
exactly.
Yeah. All right. So I really want to talk about Southern Highlands. You picked up your first collegiate win last year. I think this was either the tournament right before COVID hit. So this was probably one of the last collegiate tournaments that was played last year. So
yes.
I don't want to take you through the entire, as much as I know you'd love to walk through the entire experience. I mean, you shoot 73, 68, 67 to get into a playoff with Yuxin Lin, and you win that in the next playoff hole. So we've given everyone the kind of 50,000 foot view of what happened. You won, you get your first individual title. USC did win the team title, but I wanted to ask you, 18th hole is a par 5. I'm just going to set it up a little bit for the listeners. The 18th hole is a par 5. You're one down. You need to basically pick up a shot to get into a playoff. So, which you did. You made a closing birdie on 18. But this is a par 5. This is the age where everyone thinks maybe a collegiate player is just going to pull driver, bomb it, go 4-2. I know that's a lot of what we see on the PGA Tour, whether it's, there's Bryson or Finau or anyone, pick them. They're all bombing it. But you didn't necessarily play the hole that way, and it still paid off for you, and you did what you needed to do. So for people that are listening that maybe don't have the best course management or don't stick to their guns, can you walk us through that 18th hole?
It's a kind of tight 18th hole where you hit it up the left side with a 3-wood or so, but those waters, it is a reachable par 5. Don't get me wrong. I mean, guys were going for it and stuff, and the final round, the pin was back right, kind of in this little. It's a shelf on the green. The greens were very fast, a little wind out there, and very firm. But no matter where you're hitting from into that green, the green's kind of tilted away from you. And I had about 285, and I could hit 3-wood there. I could get it there, no problem, and put a little height under it. But just there's no way to hold the green. I had to hit a perfect shot to just end up in the back bunker. Or if I pull a bit, I have a 40-yard bunker shot to carry it onto a shelf that's 15 feet long. And if I hit it long of the pins, instant bogey, I'm come up short, then I'm going to be kicking myself. So I mean, I laid up, I feel like inside 100 yards, pretty good for me. And I laid up to 65 yards and
okay,
skipped it up the hill to a few feet. And I knew I had to make birdie. So made birdie and went on to the playoff. And the rest is history.
So you were out there being a volunteer assistant coach. Richie Coughlin was with you during regulation. I mean, this guy has all the creds that you'd want. I mean, he's a Walker Cupper for GB&I in '97, and he's played on the PGA Tour. He's played on the European Tour. And it's interesting. You said 65 yards. Normally, us, amateurs don't think of people laying up to that number. They think of that as the half wedge number that most people are uncomfortable with. So I guess, is that a number that you wanted, and why did you want that number? Is that something you're practicing back in Austin a lot?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the exact number I wanted. I wanted anything from 60 to 70 yards. In Austin, Coach Fields set a little sand pit starting at about, you can move anywhere on the range, but starting from 20 to 100 yards. And I mean, every day on the range, I start off with that. And then we're fortunate enough to have a track man, and I do the wedge test and always testing my wedges. So when I was talking with Coach Coughlin, we were out there and we were talking about going for the green, but there's, like I said, there's just no good spot to put it. So like, we're going to lay it up and I'm going to pitch it out there. We're going to make birdie and we're going to go on. Okay. And I laid it up to exactly where I wanted to with a 5-iron and played the low skipping pitch back on the top shelf, and we did exactly what we talked about.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this one. If you were in that situation maybe a year or two ago, do you think you're making that decision the exact same way? And I'm asking that because I'm curious how your course management and thought process changes once you go from junior golf and high school golf to playing at the University of Texas.
I tell you that I probably would have gone for it.
Okay.
I mean, my wedges weren't as good. My putting wasn't as sharp, and I would have thought, I can get there. Might as well just go for it. It's a par 5.
Right.
And I mean, like you're saying, like, that's just the typical thought nowadays. Like, and stats do prove at some point that par 5s are better to get closer to, but that's not always the case. Like, you have more to evaluate than just stats.
Sure.
So, I'd definitely say 2 years ago, probably ripping at it and I'd make par and I would have lost and have been frustrated. But luckily I matured a little bit. And I've had 3 coaches trying to nail it through my head for 2 years now. So I think it's finally coming along.
Nice. Well, there's a lot of, as you know, there's a lot of history at UT, a lot of names on that wall. When you and your brother came in as freshmen, and your dad played at Texas, your dad, Kyle Coody played at Texas. You have the pedigree and the legacy of. Did it take you a while for it to really sink in of what you got yourself into?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Texas is obviously big D1 program, and I mean, my first semester, Pierceson took off just going right down the road, doing exactly what he's supposed to do, play well, made tournaments. And I think I was a little, in a way, like starstruck with, okay, like I'm actually here.
Yeah.
And I had a little too much confidence in my game. And it quickly like showed that I wasn't as good as I thought. That's a really good way to put it.
Well, yeah.
And so I got my teeth beat in pretty quick. I mean, Cole and Pierceson were both playing well. And we had other guys on the team. I mean, Steven Schiavone, the senior at the time, was playing well. And
yep.
I mean, if I made the tournament, it was like, okay, I just qualified for the tournament. And then you had the other guys really competing for winning the qualifier. So I think just adjusting and getting used to it was a huge part of transition.
Well, then you guys make that great run where you get to the finals of the national championship, and there's just a bunch of freshmen on a team that I think, admittedly, I believe you'd stated somewhere else where you didn't have a whole lot of match play experience, and now you're thrust into the ultimate match play experience, maybe except for a U.S. Amateur or a Walker Cup, and I guess you got to learn pretty damn quick when you're on that stage.
And you either win or go home. I mean, you learn quick. But I mean, there was some match play experience, but I mean, I remember Pierceson had like 2 or 3 matches under his belt, like in his entire career, from there's like Texas Legends Junior Tour stuff.
Right.
And I remember Obviously, Cole at that point, Cole had the most match play experience winning the Western and being the USAM that year. And I mean, everyone was just saying like, all right, we got 5 guys on the team. We need 3 of us to go beat the other team, like, and we'll just keep moving. And I mean, luckily that happened, and we beat Oklahoma, then Oklahoma State. Shocking Oklahoma State was incredible, and I mean, wish we could have beat Stanford, but kudos to them for doing it and getting it done.
I remember I've asked people about, I can't remember who I asked about this, but you were there when horseshoed that putt.
Oh, yes. It was me and Cole right there, and Coach Fields grabbed each of our shoulders like, we're playing for a national championship tomorrow. I'll never forget that.
I was watching that putt live. I remember seeing the delay between when it horseshoed and then when you guys actually went out onto the green and started celebrating. It's literally, it looked like there was like a 3-second pause where nobody knew what to do.
Oh, I mean, we all really liked the Oklahoma State guys, and I mean, we knew how heartbreaking that was. And on the other hand, we were beyond excited that we're playing for a national championship. It was such a I'd never felt an experience or been in an experience like that, where I mean, everyone had played a ton of rounds with Boshu and Hovland and Wolf and Eckroat, everyone on that team. And all the Oklahoma State fans were all silent. And obviously the Texas fans started to cheer. The few that were there, they were trying to make noise because the Oklahoma State fans have been extremely loud all day.
They are an excited bunch, aren't they?
They came out in masses to Arkansas, and they were loud. But I mean, it's exciting.
Yeah, I talked to, well, you probably, I mean, you know Davis Riley, and I spoke with him, and he was on the other end of that victory that Oklahoma State had on their home course, and I mean, he was very polite about it, but he was like, yeah, their fans are nuts.
Tell you true, when you get your name called, it's like, oh, hey, good job, like, way to be here. And then you get an Oklahoma State guy gets called, and it's like you think you're in a Superdome about to tee off. It's like, okay, here we go.
It's like you know, like professional wrestling where they have like the guy that nobody knows, where there's like 7 people cheering for the guy.
Yes.
And then, you know, The Rock comes out and it's like, oh shit, really?
You knew who the heavy favorite was. Yeah,
exactly. Well, it sounds like you guys are really kind of making this, hopefully make another run at that national championship, and gosh, such a young team. And, you know, it's funny, you talk about, you know, all these great things with collegiate golf. I'm never going to ask an underclassman what their plans are as far as staying in school or leaving early and all that stuff. I really am not, but it's just listening to how much fun college golf sounds. Boy, unless you're just getting a hell of an offer, I mean, gosh, why would you ever want to leave?
Shocks me. I don't know why you would. I mean, it's... I'm loving college, and I know these next 2 years are going to go by so fast. I mean, I just moved into our new house in Austin, and moving out of my last place, I was like, wow, I'm halfway through college. This is just crazy to think about.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about your teammates, but before we do that, you got the Western Ann coming up. You know, it's just such a long, grueling tournament that's going to be, and then, as with everyone else making the trip out to Bandon Dunes for the U.S. Amateur, you know, you and your brother had basically identical runs last year, you know, made it to the round of 16 before bowing out. But how have you and your brother really have thought about this U.S. Amateur? Well, where obviously you're going to be exempt regardless. You know, you made the quarterfinal or the round of 16, you're exempt, but there's no qualifying this year. This is going to be an incredibly strong field because, you know, there's no 16-year-old dreamer that sneaks in on his home course. There's no 40-year-old guy that, you know, rode a hot putter and made it. These are all like the top 200 or so amateurs in the world. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's awesome that it's going to be so competitive. I mean, the guys that make that match play, they're obviously going to be playing good golf. And I mean, I hope I'm one of them, planning on it, and then go from there. You just got to beat the guy you're teaming up against. So I think it's just going to be awesome, like how competitive it's going to be. I think everyone's going to be so focused and ready to go too. So what do you know about Bandon Dunes and about Links Golf?
The only thing I know about Bam Dins is it depends on the wind. And then as far as links golf, I mean, I've talked to my granddad maybe a little bit about it. My dad's told me a little bit about it. And then other than that, I played in Waterville when I was like 12 or 13. So my links golf knowledge is very limited.
You just keep hitting it, playing smart. You should be just fine. Now, this is probably a first. You are in the middle of a golf interview where you brought up your grandfather before the person in my chair did. Has that ever happened before?
No, not really. Not.
Wow.
I'm now thinking about it.
Man.
I mean, I normally don't think about it, but I was just thinking links golf, and I'm like, who in my family has links golf experience?
Oh my gosh.
So,
well, that gives me a slight opening, but we're going to do it in a different way. Your grandfather, Charlie Coody, 1971 Masters champion. I'm sure I can be bribed not to post the picture of you and Pierceson at age like 8 in your caddy overalls from the Masters, but I'll probably do it anyway. But give me a good Charlie Coody story that is not necessarily golf related. We could look up all of his achievements. That can be done. But as the grandson, give me a good story that maybe someone maybe not know. And we can come back to that, and I can punch it back in. That can be done if you'd like. So
yeah, let's come. You want not golf related?
Yeah, I mean, just like a random, like, just, I guess, you've probably been asked to give me the whole, like, what's he shown you on the golf course, and
right,
and what is, you've been at the Masters, but I was actually looking more for, like, give me just a grandpa story.
Okay, I can do that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I thought that'd be a little bit different. But we can come back to that. So I can punch that in at a later time. But
okay.
Yeah, okay, so I'll punch this one back in too. So one of the highlights one of the rewards of winning Southern Highlands, as I'm sure you and everyone else knew as you were teeing it up, is that the individual winner gets an exemption into a PGA Tour event. So you will be returning at some point to TPC Summerlin in Vegas to play the PGA Tour, to play the Shriners Hospitals for Children Open. I know that must seem like a mile away, but gosh, where do you put that basically in your brain of like, okay, I know that's coming up. Do you even think about working on things for that? Does that even enter your mind yet?
I'm still focused on getting ready for the Western and getting ready for the USM. And I think once the USM ends, then it'll really hit me like, okay, about a month and a half till teeing it up, like it's actually happening. So, but I mean, yeah, I think everything's just kind of working toward it. I mean, it's obviously going to be my first PGA Tour event, which is extremely happy about and fortunate enough to have that opportunity. So but I don't think my preparation needs to change. Like, I would hope not, as far as my preparation doesn't change based on what tournament I'm playing and how much attention I give it. I feel like I should give each tournament the same amount of attention and respect as far as I want to go in there and do what I need to do.
Sure. And you're probably not going to have any shortage of tour players that you can get a game with out there. Since Merido is just full of them.
Yeah. I mean, Davis and Will are both obviously playing great on tour right now. And then you have a bunch of guys out there. I mean, Tony Romo's out there, and he's one of the most competitive guys you'll ever meet.
I've heard so many stories about him. At some point,
yeah.
I've got to get him because I just hear that he just will not go away.
Oh, he's persistent in everything he does. I mean, he wants to beat you so badly, and he'll do anything in his power within his golf game. Don't get me wrong; he's a clean player, but he'll do anything in his way to beat you. And the day he does, it's not going to be pretty. I hope it never happens.
Well, I don't think I'm going out of bounds here, but your bankroll and Pierceson's bankroll is not the same as Tony Romo's. I think that's a fair statement. You're amateurs, you're college kids, and he's got some, TV money and NFL money that he's probably got stored away somewhere. But I don't want to ask you what the games are like between you guys, but there's got to be a time where the bet isn't just money. It's got to be like, oh man, I got to say something or do something, or I owe you a favor or whatever. I mean, how do you manage games with not just Romo, but other guys where money really just doesn't come into play?
I think it's just such a pride thing. Like, we do a lot of team games where Pierceson will play against like Tony and his best friend, Mike Baldwin, member out there, and they're both good players. Or I mean, whoever it is, like the other junior golfers out there, like Randall Foge, he's a incoming freshman to UT, or Tommy Morrison, he's a UT commit. I mean, there's so many guys out there that everyone just wants to beat each other, and I think it's just good without the money.
Yeah, the money's not a thing. Now, I know Morrison follows the podcast too. I haven't spoken to him. Is that kid really 6'8"?
He's all 6'8". That's for sure.
Good God,
he's a big kid. Yeah, his brother's same size. It's incredible. And I mean, to tell you the truth, he's got a great pair of hands, and you just would not see that from how big he is till you actually watch him play.
Oh my goodness, I got to see this kid hit a golf ball, because I mean, you and Pierceson are. I mean, you have the athletic build. I mean, you guys look like you're athletes first, and then you can also play golf. And Morrison's this. I mean, would you say that? I mean, I guess you and you guess Pierceson, but really, you're not. I mean, let's face it, the most athletic and physically imposing person on the University of Texas golf team, it's Cole Hammer, right?
Yes, all 150 pounds of him.
There you go. I'm giving you the open. That's your cue. You can have as much fun as you want and tell a Cole Hammer story.
Cole's obviously one of my good friends, but
good start.
Nothing's better than watching Cole work out. I mean, don't get me wrong. He gets after it in the gym. As far as it's not the most impressive thing you're going to watch when you watch someone get after the gym.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Is that because that statement? You really don't need to explain it, just because the delivery is just so perfect. Oh my gosh. Well,
it's good.
Yeah. Well, he's looks like he's really kind of coming into shape, and he's. I know he didn't have the best fall, but things are kind of coming together for him. I know he's playing really well, so that definitely bodes well for UT. Well, Parker, this is as advertised. I knew this would be a great conversation, and got a lot of great things going for you. Not only with hopefully returning to school as soon as possible and making a run at a national championship, and then got the Western, and then obviously the big U.S. Amateur at Bandon. So I'm glad we caught up. Glad you follow the podcast. Glad your family follows the podcast, and we'll do it again soon. I appreciate you stopping by the back of the range.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
And there you have it. Special thanks to Parker Coody from the University of Texas for joining me on this episode. Don't forget, every single episode is available at thebackoftherange.com. We'll see you next time for another episode here at the Back of the Range.